My first question has to do with, I've asked the universe, what it is I should do to make my desires happen. So I have the desires, and now I ask the universe, how do I get from point A to point B? The universe tells me explicitly what to do, physically, to manifest it, and then I don't do it. I feel like there's a membrane around me that will make me either pick up the remote to start watching television, or get on the phone, or I'll create another project to take away from what I think the universe is telling me that I should be doing. That's question one.
What is the question?
What is the question?
Why don't I do what the universe tells me to do, which will give me what I want?
Yes.
Maybe you want freedom to be. Maybe you want freedom rather than somebody telling you what to do. Maybe you really don't want the universe to tell you what to do.
I never thought of that.
Have you ever enjoyed anyone telling you what to do?
No.
Have you ever done anything that anyone told you what to do for very long?
I used to. It's getting less and less and less.
We think all that is happening is that we think that you are misunderstanding your relationship with the universe. And we think that if you would, in other words, when you say, I want this, tell me what to do. And Esther experiences it. She will say while she is driving, I'm not sure I know the way. Tell me the way. And then when Jerry tells her the way, it's really annoying. Because there's a part of her that wants to know the way. And so we think that you are misunderstanding your relationship with the universe. We think that what you're saying is, I think I know what I want, and I'm wanting to get there. Here it is. I know what I want. We talked about this earlier. Do I want the long, leisurely, scenic route? Or do I want the direct, shorter, more specific route? Do I want the route where I get to meet a lot of people and mold a lot of clay and have a lot of fun? Or do I want the route where I just go as quickly and speedily as I can? And have you stopped to identify that there may be some differences there? Give us an example of something that you said you wanted and what the universe told you to do that you didn't do.
I want to direct film that will affect people, and I'm far from that. And I said, universe, how do I get from, let's say, Virginia Beach to Hollywood? And the universe said, write your own screenplay. And when I get to the typewriter, I'm terrified because I don't want to reveal too much in my screenplay that I might think people would read into it and say, oh, did you do that? So that's where I don't type. Did that answer it?
Well, do you believe when you received the information to write your own screenplay, do you believe that that is the first step along the way? We think that you said something very telling. You said, I want to write things that will affect people. And then you said, and I'm a very long way away from that. And so then you said, but even though I am a very long way away from that, I asked the universe what I should do. And the universe said, write your own screenplay. But I can't get myself to do it. Do you think that it might be because the vibration within you about it being so far away is such a dominant vibration that you just can't you can't see it happening, and so you don't make any effort toward it?
Yes.
You see what? Sometimes people approach things in a backward fashion, and we can feel a little bit of that here. So let's walk through this, and we think you'll feel some release in all of this. Is it fun to write screenplay? In other words, you said you want to write meaningful things.
When I have the one and only play that I've written and finished, I was sobbing and crying my eyes out. So it was actually pretty painful. But it felt good when I was finished.
Well, then start in another place. Tell us again, what is it you want to do and why?
I want to express myself through directing film, video, television, and I would like to have an effect on people that I have. When I watch a movie that moves me or changes my life in some way, I would like to do that.
Now, and what would that mean? What would you actually do? What would your action be? In other words, that's a big picture, and we can see the end result of it. But what would your work be if you were to be that person doing that? What would your day be like?
If the screenplay was already written, or if it was...
In any case.
Okay, let's say it's written. Then I would have the script in front of me, and then I would have to break it down into the scenes I want to shoot. I would have to cast it through an audition process. I would have a group of people working with me to manifest this.
Good. And how would you go about finding the project? In other words, is it a project that you would write? Is it a project that someone else would write? In other words, what do you think the majority of your life would be if you were already this person? And there would be a certain amount of your time that you would be casting, and there would be a certain amount of your time that would be shooting. But what do you think the majority of your life would be if that were your job?
I think I keep seeing myself in meetings, pitching ideas and brainstorming.
The majority of your life would be finding the project. The majority of your life would be finding the project that felt worthy of your effort. It would be finding the project that inspired you. And so you can start right there, right now. Because what happens when you say, what I want is this end result where I am this producer, where I live in another part of the world and where I have all of these people around me, and that is so far from where you are that you don't know where to begin. But when you think about what you would actually be doing in that role, you can begin doing what you would be doing in that role right now. And when you begin living that role, when you begin doing that, then there is no difference in the vibration between you and the vibration of you as you want to be. And then the universe will line up the wherewithal, the means, the circumstance and events that will bring that about for you. So that's why the universe or your source said to you, write the screenplay. Now, you don't have to write it. You could find it. You could sort of vibe it out. You could attract it. You could look for it. You could begin by enjoying the things that you are seeing. You could begin watching things that others produced, and you could sort of, in your mind, work backwards and think about where they began. You could think about the book that was translated into that, or you could think about the idea that was translated into that. Almost every day, Jerry and Esther, just through the life that they are living, get some idea for some situation comedy or something. Esther said, I could write that stuff because we live it every day as the universe yields all kinds of different circumstances. And so you can begin that now. Begin making your statement to the universe. I have already begun my path. I am already that. I'm in the process of collecting the material and gathering the information and getting my juices flowing. See, the universe does not know the difference between whether you are actually that person or you are just pretending to be that person. It responds to you in the same way. And so, now let's get back to your question. So, you said, I want to do such and such, what should I do? And the universe said, do this. And from the dialogue that we've had together just now, we think that the information that you received was very good information. We think you translated it exactly. So then you say, but Abraham, I asked what to do and I was told what to do. Why couldn't I make myself do it? And we say, because there was too much distance between the vibration of that and the vibration of where you are. You've got to start pretending that you are that. In other words, we think that what's going wrong for you is that you, like almost all humans, think, I've got to get the job and I've got to get the money and I've got to get the funding or I have to at least live in the city where most of it takes place. I have to get all of these things. I have to be that before I can be that. And we say, no, you can be that before you be that. You say, no, I have to be that before I can be that. And we say, no, you can be that before you be that. You get the sense of what we're talking about, don't you? So give yourself the label. Assume that identity. Acknowledge that that's who you are. And acknowledge that like everybody else who is already really being that the majority of their life is spent looking for the project, vibing it out. And the way they find it is by enjoying what they're seeing, kind of keeping an ear to the ground about what the world is looking for, enjoying the things that resonate specifically with them. And we're certain that a screenplay will come out of you somewhere, but whether you write it or whether you find it, it doesn't matter. You just have to begin the process as if you are already that person standing in that role. So we want to go back again. Why don't I do what I know will get me to where I want to be? It's a big question, isn't it? I am fatter than I want to be, and I know that if I would just eat less, that would change. Why don't I just do it? Or I don't think that these cigarettes are good for me for whatever reason, and I think I should quit. Why don't I just do it? Why don't I know that this process made me feel good when I did it, and now I know it would make me feel good again. Why don't I do it? So the question is, why don't I do what I know works? And we say, it's a very simple answer. You don't want to. You don't want to. Isn't that all right? You don't want to. So then you say, well, I never thought of that. You're right, I obviously don't want to because I do the things I want to do. So if I'm not doing it, I must not want to. So then we say it's helpful to get into touch with what you do want. And the more you think about what you want and why you want it, the more you begin to activate that vibration within you. And the more you activate that vibration within you, the more you are inspired to do the things that lead to that. So why don't I do that? In other words, why do I lean this way instead of this way? Why do I lean toward not doing it instead of toward doing it? And we say, because that's the most active vibration. Because you talk more about it not working, or you talk more about not doing it, or you talk more about not knowing what to do. So that's the vibration that is the most activated. And here, this is the thing that we most want you to hear. Therefore, for right now, not doing it is the path of least resistance. It's easier not to do it than to do it. We're really onto something. Stay with us for just a little bit. So how do I make the path of least resistance lead me to where I want to go instead of the path of least resistance leading me to where I don't want to go? You got to talk more about what you do want and less about what you don't want. Because the vibration that is the most activated is just the one that gets the most airtime. It's the one you talk about the most. It's the one you think about the most, you see. So it comes back round to, do you think that when you think in terms of feeling tones, when you think in terms of how you usually feel, do you think that you feel more like a person who isn't going to be able to do that? Or do you feel more like a person who is going to be able to do that? And we would say that right now, you feel more like a person that isn't going to be able to do that. And that's because that's the vibration.
That scares me a lot.
Because that's the vibration that's the most active. So the path of least resistance is watching the television or doing something else or not doing what you know. It's true of anyone. In other words, it's true of someone who has found a specific process that takes them to where they say they want to go, and they can't make themselves do the process. And we say it's because something else is more active within you. So you just have to back up from it, find something that feels good, make that more active. It really is as simple as finding a thought that feels good and focusing on it until it becomes your dominant vibration. It really is as simple as that. But then you say, oh, I want to go faster than that. Helpful?
Yes.
So what are you going to do? What are you going to do differently now? Now that we've had this chat, how will it affect what you do?
Well, I have to feel like
before you answer, we want to give you this.
Okay.
We don't want it to affect what you do so much as we want it to affect how you feel about what you do. In other words, we want you to stop beating up on yourself. We want you to start giving yourself a break. We want you to start trying to think more in optimistic terms rather than pessimistic terms. In other words, it's not so much about what you do. The path of least resistance is a thought path, not an action path. So when you think a thought like, the universe told me what to do and I'm not doing it, that's a more resistant thought. When you think a thought like, but I'll get to it, and I'll figure it out, and sometimes I get really inspired, and when I get really inspired, I can turn in that direction. And when I feel that inspiration flowing, it really flows. And in all of the writing that I've done, I've had times when I tried to write and couldn't, and then I've had times when I didn't try to write and ideas began to flow. So I'll get there. I just don't have to orchestrate it or manage it or manipulate it. I'll get there. Can you feel how all of those statements are statements that reduce resistance?
Yes, and my fear with that is that I'll just keep doing that forever instead of really. I've had this fear of just letting go and letting the universe.
Well, now stop for just a moment and think about the path of greater resistance that you just took with your words. In other words, you just took a path of resistance with your words. My fear is that I will just continue to make wrong decisions. Instead, make a statement that makes you feel good when you make it. In other words, the path of least resistance is the path that feels good right now. This is the thing that is hardest for people to hear. It's not an action path. You said, I know what to do, why don't I do it? And we say, because there's resistance in your way. And you say, well, how can I make myself do it? And we say, get rid of the resistance. And you say, well, I'm afraid to work on the resistance. Shouldn't I just do it? And we say, well, you can't do it till you get rid of the resistance. And you say, but I'm afraid if I work on the resistance that I'll just work on the resistance all my life and I'll never really do it. Do you hear the circle that we just went round in?